So in getting to know all their medicines and stuff, they really didn't have any scientific approach as we understand it. All of their knowledge and dealing with the medicines was empirical. Continuing, their understanding of the chemical effects of heat was also imperfect. Because a number of familiar chemical processes are speeded up by an increase in temperature, they tended to think that the heat was itself the cause of the process, not merely one of the controlling factors. However, when all this has been said in disparagement of their chemical theory, it is as well to recall that the Greeks and Romans managed their practical chemistry with fair success. They could cure some diseases, they could brew palatable and potent wines, they could devise an adequate and healthy diet from terribly limited resources of food production, and they could put a black glaze on their pottery which still looks shiny and new today, and who knows, may still remain so when our own civilization has passed into history. We go now to Chapter 9. The principal Greek and Roman writers on technological subjects. Some of the most difficult problems in the study of Greek and Roman technology arise from the fact that our information comes from a wide variety of sources. Odd references to such subjects as metallurgy, transport, or building technology are scattered about in the works of many authors, and the archaeological evidence comes from a large number of sites and ranges over a long period of time. A complete review, even of literary sources, therefore, would be a very lengthy and tedious undertaking, but there are three ancient writers. Hero of Alexandria, sometimes that's translated Hieron, H-E-R-O-N, but this guy calls him Hero. Vitruvius and Frontinus, whose works, or some of them at least, are wholly concerned with technological subjects. A fourth, Pliny the Elder, compiled a great encyclopedia in which technological subjects are referred to, along with almost every other subject under the sun, so he deserves a brief mention as well. Now, Hero of Alexandria. The Greek spelling of his name was Hieron, but the Latinized form is more commonly used. He is one of the most important sources of our knowledge about ancient technology. His works have survived in some quantity, though they are not complete, and he was a very versatile man, with the result that he supplies information on pure mathematics, physics, mechanics, conjurer's apparatus, surveying instruments, and many other items, plus, most interesting of all, some occasional insights into practical engineering at the nuts and bolts level. Of the man himself we know virtually nothing apart from what we can infer from his writings. His name suggests that he lived and worked in Alexandria. Several later writers also referred to him as Hero the Machine Man, or Mechanikos, K-O-S at the end. Of his social status we know nothing except that he was an educated man, well read in the works of mathematicians and engineers, particularly those of Ctesibius, Ctesibius, the most famous in the ancient world. That's Hero of Alexandria. We're going to skip a fair deal of material that the author offers, and we're going to go from page 200 to page 208. So that's Hieron of Alexandria. Could be looked at in more length. Not necessarily important on a history of ancient Greece proper, right? It's a bit of a side subject, but getting some of these on the table will give us a view of the intellectual culture at the time. Vitruvius. The Latin treatise De Architectura, in 10 books, is the only work of its kind to survive from the Roman world. It had an immense influence on the thinking of architects and scholars throughout the later Middle Ages and the Renaissance, not least on Palladio, and thus indirectly on 18th century English architecture. Palladio I first heard of because Thomas Jefferson was influenced by Palladio, loved Palladio. Thomas Jefferson's Monticello shows the influence of Palladio, if I remember correctly. That was where I first heard of Palladio. But Palladio was greatly influenced by Vitruvius, the ancient Latin architect. The title De Architectura should be interpreted in a rather broader sense than the word architecture normally bears. The root meaning of the Greek word architekton is not so much master craftsman as craft organizer, the man responsible for coordinating and directing the work of a number of craftsmen with various different specialized skills. And this is how Vitruvius sees his profession. But of the author of this fantastic work we know remarkably little. The name Vitruvius is a family name. The work is addressed, this great book we know him through, is addressed to the Emperor Augustus and refers to the rebuilding of Rome after the Civil War, which ended in the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. And so it must date from after that time. But he does not use the title Augustus in addressing the emperor, and since that title was given to him in 27 BC, this suggests that Vitruvius' work dates from 4 years between 31 and 27 BC. We're able to date that pretty accurately there. Did you know that Rome was destroyed in a civil war? I think plenty more than one. It was sacked by the enemy on numerous occasions. But anyways, not our concern here. After Caesar's death, probably during the 10 years or so of civil war which followed before Augustus eventually achieved mastery, after Caesar's death, Vitruvius was appointed, along with 3 colleagues, to be in charge of the construction and repair of catapults. In other words, he was in a technical section of the army called the Fabri, F-A-B-R-I, like the fabricators, you know. Engineers is how it's translated, who were responsible for weapon maintenance, bridge building, transport vehicles, and other such matters. The senior officer in charge of all these operations was called Praefectus Fabrum, but Vitruvius does not claim to have held that post. Skip a bit. He may possibly have held some official position under Augustus as overseer of works, which carried a salary or pension. He says he has now no fear of poverty for the rest of his life in one of his works. And according to Frontinus, he was responsible for standardizing pipe and nozzle sizes in the public water supply. Now we're done with Vitruvius. One interesting thing about that is the praetor of the water supply guy, that office usually was not taken seriously by the Romans who were appointed to these various offices. You got an office and you just sort of collected your pay and you didn't rock the boat. Well, he caused some problems. He went in at the age of 60, I believe it was saying, rocks the boat, he goes in, he wants to standardize things, he immediately wants a review of all the aqueducts and the shape that they're in, and people were just not used to this activity. So he was active. Good guy, Vitruvius. But we will leave him now for Frontinus. Unlike Hero and Vitruvius, who were concerned with a diverse range of subjects, Frontinus concentrated on a specialized area of technology, water supplies, and engineering. But we know rather more about him as a person and about his career outside the field of technology. The author then goes into that, and we are not interested in that. Now about Pliny. His full name was Gaius Plinius Secundus, and he is known as Pliny the Elder to distinguish him from his nephew Gaius Plinius Caecilius Secundus, whose letters survive in some quantity. He was apparently a man of immense energy, blah blah blah, interesting, fine. Now then, his encyclopedia. Yes, let's get on to the encyclopedia. The Latin title is Naturalis Historia, the word historia having its older Greek meaning of inquiry or research. So the inquiry or research into nature, which means everything. It is in 37 books, i.e. 37 rolls of papyrus in the original manuscript text, and contains, as he proudly boasts on the preface, quote, more than 20,000 important facts drawn from 100 principal authors. The first book is really an index of topics and sources. The subjects are then dealt with as follows. Book 2, The Universe, Stars, Planets, Phenomenon, Astronomy. Books 3 through 6, Descriptive Geography of the World. Book 7, Human Anatomy and Physiology. Books 8 through 11, Zoology.